Okay, I've got a grandson that's quite a player, and I'd like to hook him up with that.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, you know, the unfortunate thing is that they can't do a video with everybody, you know, so like James was not in the video. I did in my amateur camera recording, did record him and we sent it in, but it was great. And the video is kind of fun because you saw people, let's just say, of varying degrees of proficiency in trumpet playing. Well, welcome everybody. We'll get started in just a minute. Devin, do you have our flag slide prepared?
Chuck is on.
Almost. Thank you, Barb, for that.
I'm the great reminder. That's all.
You are a great reminder.
I mean, you guys can always just use my screen.
I know, that is the great part of having you join us, Christina. And we did do that once, didn't we?
We have a lot of American flags in my office.
That's good. Hey, Chuck Swanson, great to see you.
Hi, thank you. Great to be here.
Wonderful. Well, it is wonderful to see everybody. I want to thank you for attending. It's 12:02, so we will get started. My name's Barb Thomas, and I am the president of the Iowa City Noon Rotary for this 2020-21 Rotary year. I'm so used to saying academic year. So for this Rotary year, so we will get started as we normally do for every Rotary meeting, and that is with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to ask Devin to share his slide with us. And so please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you and welcome again. As we get going with our meeting today, I'm going to turn it over to Devin to provide some just gentle Zoom reminders for everyone. Devin?
Thanks, President Barb. Zoom reminders, switch back and forth between gallery and speaker view, depending on if you want to see a bunch of other smiling faces or one specific smiling face. Recommend the speaker view when our speaker is talking, as well as during announcements. That should be up in the top right corner. If you're on a computer, it'll say view and you can choose between them, something like that on mobile or iPad. Recommend checking out the participants tab if you want to see who's here. Use reactions to raise your hand. That's a key one if you have questions or if you have announcements or if you have visitors later. And then there's also these cool little emojis and the clap and the heart and all of those things, which are nice when a speaker's talking or somebody's saying something, so they can kind of see how people are feeling about it, because it's hard to get that sense of people's emotions over Zoom. So it helps us simulate a little bit of that live thing, like Barb giving me, I don't even know what that face is. So this is why you should have your gallery view on at points so you can see people's reactions. And finally, if you could sign into the chat with your name, if you haven't already, that helps with attendance. And we're glad that you're all here. Back to you, President Barb.
Great, thanks so much, Devin. So we're going to give you that opportunity to practice some of those Zoom skills that you have developed over the past 12+ months of Zoomdom. And so we'd like you to go into that reactions tab and raise your hand if you would like to introduce someone or if you would like to introduce yourself. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Devin, and he's going to call on you for that introduction. So Devin, back to you.
Yeah, thanks. I see Nancy Qualhorst with her hand raised.
Hi, everybody. My guest today is Dean Adrien Wing, and I will provide more information by way of her introduction shortly.
Sounds great. Thanks, Nancy. Ryan, you've got your hand up.
Yep, I've got with me once again Samantha Johnson, who works at Mergen Orthodontics here in town and is a very charitable minded person. So Rotary is a great fit for her. We're glad to have her here. Join us again. Say hi, Samantha.
I figured out my mute this time. So hi, everyone.
Welcome. Glad for joining us. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. I don't see any other hands raised. I know we've got Gary Wicklund here, our perennial visitor from Vail, Colorado. Anybody else want to just speak up? All right, back to you, President Barb.
Great, thank you so much, Devin. So now we're going to move to some announcements. So again, if you have an announcement and you'd like to, please go to the reactions tab and raise your hand. I'm going to start first because I'm going to remind you that it's that time of year again. It is time for dues, everybody. Yes, it's time to pay your dues. Now remember, if you do ACH, which is basically a quarterly payment, happens automatically from your checking account, and if you have done that in the past, guess what? You don't have to do a thing. Super, super easy. It is perhaps even the preferred method of payment for Rotary dues because renewal time is easy, as well as all those quarterly payments. So again, if you need any, if you need the form, if you need information, if you need encouragement, heck, reach out to me or any of the board members and we'll provide any of that information for you. But please remember to renew your dues. So next, I'm going to go to Linda Fargus for an announcement. Linda?
And I'm relying on my friend Devin to pull up the slide here. Here we go. So everybody, the June 7th is our For the Families golf outing. And we will be finishing up a few little details today. We only have 6 foursome spots left. And so please sign up. And Devin, can you scroll down so I can see a little bit down there, a little bit? There you go. So you can register today. This is where you go to register. Yep. And then, or you can sponsor a hole. So if you want to sponsor a hole, you can either contact Vern Folkman, and this is all of his contact information. And one of the things we want to talk about is volunteers. We are still needing volunteers for the event. So Devin is going to put links into the chat where you can go and get to, you can get on the website and sign up for volunteers because we'd love to have you out there that day. And lastly, adopt a program. And I'd like to go to this because some of us aren't golfers, even though I'm very involved in this committee, because I will tell you, once you see what Ronald McDonald does for the people who have a place to stay while their children are in the children's hospital, it melts your heart. So anything you can do, because if you're like me, I'm not a golfer, but I have become totally involved with this for that very reason. So one of the things that, while Devin brings this up, is this gives you an opportunity to go in and look at, and let's scroll down to wherever it shows each of the, oh, these are the sponsorships. Very good. These will show you all the different sponsorships. And let's go to the donate button because I think that's where that's at, Devin. Go back and look at and it talks about each one of the different opportunities you have to.
See, I will have to track that down. You keep talking. I'll find it.
So if you sponsor a program, you can do certain things, like you can sponsor a toy for a child, you can sponsor a meal for a family, you can sponsor all the food for the house for a day. Those are the types of levels that you're talking about, aren't you, Linda?
Yep, that's it, Barb. That's it. I'm not as theatrical as you are, so I always have to have things to look at. So yes, it's each individual thing, and you can go to the website, but it's a great way to not have to buy. I mean, I'm not a stuff buyer, so this is so easy for me. And I found last year it was easy when somebody had a birthday that was kind of like me that doesn't need any more stuff. I would just go to the Ronald McDonald House and pay for a toy or a night stay or whatever. So yeah, it looks like we're coming back. Here we go. Okay, we're back into the, okay, never mind. What I'm going to do is just say, go to the website, please, and look. And this information will also be, oh, here we go. One night family is $75. Your donation provides vegetables for 1 week for $150, which is really, really good. And the longest putt, you can tell I'm not a golfer, so somebody, if I make a mistake on something, your donation helps operate a family room for 1 family day. And at $525, your donation covers 1 week for 1 family. And like I said, if you feel that you would like to get involved with this is one great way to do it. And to help Ronald McDonald's House keep the families going when their children are in their children's hospital. So this information will be on our minutes and also on our daily announcements until the 7th. So thank you. Thanks, Barb.
You bet, Linda. Great project, everybody. And it is, it is an amazing and easy way to support families who have kids at Children's Hospital. So please consider it, whether it's golfing, whether it's volunteering, whether it is providing some additional sponsoring some type of program. It's a great way for you to be involved. So next, I'm going to turn it over to LaDonna Wickland, who has an announcement. LaDonna?
Good afternoon, everyone. This week on Wednesday, the Ames Rotary Club invited everyone to attend their meeting via Zoom because they were having the international president there. And Tara and I think we're the only ones from our club that got up at 6:30 and went to this meeting. But it was so, we know intellectually, we know that we are a part of this enormous organization that's worldwide and that does all these wonderful things. But when you see the international president speak and talk to you about the projects and everything that's happening, then at an emotional level, it becomes so real that we are a part of an international organization that does incredible things worldwide. And we're all connected and we're all like a Rotary family. And we all care about each other worldwide. So I just wanted to remind you all this week to be proud you're a Rotarian and enjoy being a Rotarian and take that as a positive for the week. Thanks.
Well, that's great, LaDonna. And I am going to take advantage of that perfect lead in as my opportunity to introduce somebody who's going to give us a short announcement. So Jennifer Blair has spoken to our club previously, in person even when that happened. And Jennifer has been involved with the water project in Tanzania that our club, as well as a number of other clubs, have helped make happen. So if you want to follow LaDonna Wickland's advice to feel good about being a part of Rotary, we're going to give you the content that kind of proves it. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and she's going to give us an update on that water project in Tanzania. Jen?
Thank you so much, Barb. And I thought LaDonna set that up so perfectly. I was thinking this must have been planned because I hope what I can share briefly today is a real concrete example of that good work that really spans the globe from eastern Iowa to a remote part of western Tanzania, to a Rotary club called Bukoba, and to a village called Kumwambu. And I did get to speak in person with you, and that's some indication of how long this project has been going on. But I came and with Jim Peterson from the Iowa City AM Club to share about the project. So I won't repeat too many details about it, except just to remind you that this is a project that really was spurred by a friendship that I have with a student from Tanzania who I knew when I worked at St. Ambrose University in Davenport. She's a religious sister who came to Iowa for her bachelor's degree and is from this village of Kumwambu. And as she was graduating, she approached my husband and me and let us know about a need for a clean source of water in her community. And really through the miracle of Rotary and a lot of work by a lot of Rotarians, both here and in Tanzania, finally this past spring, it's become a reality. And Iowa City Noon was a significant contributor to it, both at the club level and individual members in the club. And so I am just delighted to be able to come back and share the good news with you that we have a really productive connection with the Rotary Club of Bukoba, which is located if you know, Tanzania is on the eastern side of Africa, and Bukoba is in the northern part of the country, not too far from Lake Victoria. The village that we're working with is about a 6-hour drive southwest of Bukoba. So for Bukoba to pick up this project was itself kind of a miracle, because it's really quite far away from the club. But at the same time, the area is so remote that this was still the closest Rotary club that we could connect with. So we have a wonderful contact there, a man named Joas Rowigashora, who was the president of the club and has continued to be the main contact for us over there. And I wanted to very briefly just share a few pictures of where we are. As of last week, we got some updated photos, and I just wanted to show you your funds in action. This is really what happens, and this is really happening on the other side of the world, thanks to the generosity of folks in Eastern Iowa. But on the farthest left, we have, this is really more than just digging wells. This is an actual water containment project for the village. So what they're starting out doing is building a holding tank. This is going to be a reserve tank that's up on a hill above the village. And so it's going to have gravity power to send it through pipes down into the village. And so what we're looking at is them digging the foundation for this holding tank. The smaller picture up in the top right are then the local bricks. So brick manufacturing actually takes place in the village. The soil is a really good material for making bricks. And here they're curing the bricks in water, and then they'll later dry those. And that's what's going to build up the walls of this holding tank. And then the most recent picture we just received shows that the foundation for the holding tank has been cemented in. So on top of this, we think they're going to be building the walls of the tank, and that's what's going to hold the water so that it can run down into the village. At the moment, village of Kumwambu is serviced by 2 springs on either side of the village. They're about 2 miles apart from each other, and with no contamination's easy to happen. The springs go right into an open stream, and people pull water out of that stream. So this will be a huge improvement. It's something that was very much driven by the folks in Kumwambu that we have been so happy to be a part of, and truly could not have happened without Rotary and the collection of clubs and individuals across Eastern Iowa that raised a very large amount of money. We raised over $63,000 at the local level. That was matched at the district, matched again at the foundation, to fund a total of $150,000. So it's a big deal. And I'm so thrilled to have been part of it. And I will be forever grateful to Rotary for making it possible. So thank you, Barb, for the chance to come back and share that.
Happy. And, you know, we would be thrilled to see pictures of the final project when it gets to that point. And it is really great news that it is moving along and moving along well. I loved what you said specifically. I wrote it down, the miracle of Rotary. And I think it is a great example of it. And so to hearken back to my mention about dues renewal, if you wonder, what do my dues do? This is what your dues do. Your dues help at our own club level. They help do things like the I Can Read project, providing dictionaries, helping support the Ronald McDonald House golf outing. But then in addition, they help with projects at the district level, and then again at the international level. So just like our club provided resources, so did the district, so did international. And so this is the miracle of Rotary. I love that now. I'm going to put it in quotations. But it is a great example of what we can do together. And that's the benefit of Rotary. So thank you, Jen, for coming. Happy to hear about it again as it goes on. And thanks for those reminders that I don't really know how to pronounce Tanzania.
You know, you're actually, it's so funny, Barb. Sister Candida pronounces it that way. So
I pronounce it like a native.
You know, you're more accurate.
Well, you know, it perhaps shows that I've not traveled as far globally as I would like to, but you know, so be it.
You are very welcome over there. Sister Candida has given an open invitation to Rotarians to come and visit when the project's done. So you're very welcome.
That is wonderful. All right, so I do want to make one last announcement to everybody. I want to make sure that you know that there will be a survey in your inbox very soon. So we have developed an online survey so that we can gauge our members' willingness to return to in-person meetings. And I think, you know, we've done some polls in the past. We know that a lot of people are fully vaccinated now. So we're going to send this survey to you, and I want you to fill it out within the next week. So I'm going to try to send it out this afternoon, and I'm going to give you to the end of the day next Friday to fill out that survey. So we're going to ask about your willingness to return to in-person meetings, but we're also going to ask about how important is lunch, and are you willing to reserve it online, etc. You know, as you know, organizations, as we all start to come back from the pandemic, you know, we're going to do some in-between steps. So we know that we want to provide food, but at first it's probably going to be box lunches instead of a full buffet. But we're going to work our way towards it as more and more people are vaccinated and we come out of this pandemic. We hope to be able to do more of what we normally expect from a Rotary meeting, but we're going to send a survey so that we can gauge your opinion on some of this. So please make sure you fill it out within the next week. So you can sit down at your desk and be like, I'm going to fill out this survey and I'm going to make sure my dues are paid, right? That's the other thing you're going to do. Okay, so next I'm going to turn to Tracy Tritle, who is going to provide for us her Rotary moment of gratitude and positivity. Tracy?
Hello, everyone. I am going to share my screen to give you a visual of, give you a bit of a visual as I move through my conversation. Okay, maybe this will work now.
Any luck?
No, I'm not seeing my PowerPoint. Well.
There you go. We're starting to see it.
All right. So as I begin, I will preface this conversation with 103 days. 103 days since I left Iowa. I have been completely mobile. 9 states, 5,000 miles, 4 mechanics, one 40-year-old vintage VW camper van, and myself. I put all of my belongings into storage. By the end of January, I let my lease go on my house, and I have been traveling and working from the road for 3 months. It has been an experience in grace. It has been an experience in deep gratitude for the people that have traveled it along beside me, with me, supporting me. So there has been an amazing view from my window as I've moved across these 5 states, snow-capped mountains, cactus, and what I've learned along the way is what I thought would be a very solo journey has become very much a parallel journey and learning to connect. And that learning and then embracing of connection has become my deepest form of gratitude, because there have been people that have upheld me, have guided me, have moved me through places to see and people to meet and mechanics to support my journey. Anyone who owns a vintage vehicle and travels in it very quickly finds out, especially if it's a VW, that you have to be a pocket mechanic yourself as well as form a network in order to support the journey. So this is Grants, New Mexico on Route 66. And as the Rotary Grants co-chair, and having a very deep history in grant writing, this was an especially fun picture and moment where someone just random on the sidewalk walked up and asked me if I wanted a picture taken. And so this was really fun to be in Grants, New Mexico. When I was in Santa Fe, my van died. And it was 2 weeks after I left home. And it was significant engine work that needed to be done. And this is my mechanic and his wife. And they opened up their home and I stayed with them while they worked on my van and made the repairs. And so the gratitude for the souls that have walked beside me on this journey and still ours is pretty amazing. This is my workstation as I was working in Arizona. I was not too far from Sedona in this picture, about 40 minutes away, and spent a month working in Camp Verde, Arizona. This is at a campground, and it was a pretty spectacular experience. I really enjoyed it. And that was my view from my work window every morning. This is actually not too far from Devil's Bridge in Sedona, and some of the spectacular landscape that has just graced this trip through the whole experience. When I got to Mesa, I had friends who were doing a day trip into Mexico. And so I actually have, I've traveled internationally, been to 8 countries, most of it European. And so I actually set foot outside of the United States during the pandemic for about 4 hours. We went into Mexico, and this is actually the wall while we were waiting to exit back into the United States. So it was sobering to see that wall that everyone has referred to, especially over the last 4 to 8 years. It's been quite a topic of conversation. One of my experiences as I was moving, and one of the souls that graced my van was actually on an animal rescue farm. There is a camping membership you can get where you can dry camp on rescue farms and vineyards, etc. And this was a potbelly pig rescue farm. And I was making dinner, and this pig just came right up and stuck his nose in the van and said hello. This is the Grand Canyon. I had never seen the Grand Canyon, and the gratitude I felt in this landscape was as big as that space is. It was amazing. And I think what we fail to really appreciate, unless we actually put boots to the ground and rubber to the road, is the immense beauty of this country that we live in. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to move around in a very solo fashion, given the last year of quarantining and take it in. This is what I found to be an amazing occurrence out on the road right now. And that is so many individual people, many of them women, who are doing the same thing I am doing. So this is in the campground in Arizona. And this is Erica Weidler, and she's from Madison, Wisconsin, and showed up in a tiny Airstream, one I've never seen that little before. And she was doing the same thing I was. And she and I became fast friends. And she's returned home, but is planning another trip out. And so we stay in touch and have done some co-camping, etc., on the road. And so now where I'm at currently is Boise, Idaho. And this is a picture that I took at Table Rock in Boise with a little bit of editing to it, but it was an amazing view. And I felt a very affirming way to end a gratitude moment. And that was, it struck me as a heart just hanging in the sky as I was out hiking. And so I leave you with the opportunity to travel, to take in, to connect, to be with others in any way that you can, even virtually as we are now, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and lean into the gratitude of that human connection. Thanks,
Oh,
Barb.
that is wonderful, Tracy. Great photos. Sounds like an amazing experience. I think you should think about pulling those together and becoming and doing a program sometime. I think a lot of us would love to hear about other stays, other visits, other people that you encountered. So thank you for taking the time today to share your Rotary moment of gratitude and positivity.
Absolutely.
So next, we will move on to our program. I'm going to turn it over to Nancy Quellhorst, who will introduce our speaker. Nancy?
Hi, everybody. Apologize for the static picture. I'm remote and have a broken selfie camera. But I will do my best here. Dean Adrien Wing is the Bessie Dunton Murray Professor at the University of Iowa College of Law, where she's taught since 1987. She's also the Associate Dean for International Comparative Law Programs, as well as Director of the University of Iowa Center for Human Rights and the Director of the France Study Abroad Program. Dean Wing has offered over 140 publications and currently teaches critical race theory, sex discrimination law, law in the Muslim world. She's held numerous leadership positions, including the American Journal and International Law Board of Editors, Council on the Section of Legal Education, American Law Institute, and Stanford Law Board of Visitors. She's been the recipient of many awards, including the Regents Award for Faculty Excellence and Michael J. Brody Award for Faculty Excellence in Service at the University of Iowa in 2021. She has an AB from Princeton, where she graduated magna cum laude, an MA from UCLA, and a JD from Stanford Law School. As you can imagine, Dean Wing is in very high demand, particularly right now, but always. And so we are most grateful to her for sharing her time and expertise with us today. Thank you, Dean Wing. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I'm delighted to be here. I don't remember if I've actually spoken for the Iowa City Rotary, but I do remember I spoke for the Point Barrow, Alaska Rotary and the Accra, Ghana Rotary. And when I went to Accra, Ghana, the US allowed women members, but the Ghana chapter did not. And I was the only woman in the room when I spoke. So that tells you how long ago it was. I'm delighted to be here with you. My time is a bit tighter than what I was expecting. So I will be proceeding at a pace that might be a little bit quicker than I would ideally like. You are welcome to get in touch with me after today's event. And I have my email at the end because each of the slides I'm going to show you could be the topic of a whole hour. So I decided to call this presentation Criminal Injustice Reform Priorities National in Iowa. And right now I have a block on the top, so I can't go full screen. And if this black line goes, I'll do it full screen, but I'll proceed. So what I hope to do in the moments that I have is talk a little bit about the national level and some of the reforms that are being talked about, and then also talk about our state, Iowa, and some of the reforms being considered in Iowa. So I'm going to first just briefly mention policing. Of course, policing is probably the most dramatic topic that's in the media. It's certainly getting us a lot of international attention as well, attention that we would ideally not want. I could do a whole course on this topic alone, including on the defunding issue and all of that, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to go beyond that and talk about, give you some statistics, some of which you may know or you may have thought of, but when you look at it, it's actually really shocking when you see some of these statistics. The United States is so far beyond any other country in terms of our incarceration rates. And, 1 out of 5 prisoners And then if you look at the whole world, not just NATO members, right, you see there are some countries that are kind of close to this, to us, and they are not necessarily countries we would want to be close to. So you see some of the countries that have the highest numbers of incarceration rates. And here I have the term criminal legal system. You may see this term in the media or in academia. So some people will not talk about criminal justice system because they feel there is not justice. And so instead of the word justice, they may be using the term criminal legal system. And so I'm flagging that in case you read this in the media. It's talking about the same thing. Okay, the way our system is currently operating, it is literally leading to many people in our society who become, in effect, de facto second-class citizens. If you get an arrest or a conviction on your record, it affects, can affect voting, going to college, employment, housing, and you see the chart on the left. If you have an arrest, you're going to be in a bad way compared to your peers in terms of getting the things that we associate with moving forward. This topic is of particular concern to me as an African American, because as you will see, these kinds of statistics are very raced. But before we even get to that, look at where the people in our country are locked up. A lot of state prisons as well as local jails, and also large numbers that are in immigration detention as well. And then if you look at the right side, the amount of money we are investing in this system in terms of corrections and policing is just enormous. And then when you look on the left, here we have at the bottom the #1 highest population in terms of prison, but we are only number 65 in terms of global college population. So I was in shock to hear that we in the US are literally only number 65. And so these numbers are quite shocking. Prisons, over 20 prisons were built in California in the same time period that they built only one university, just as an example. And then, as you would think, a lot of the people are in prison because of the war on drugs, as we know, a war that hasn't turned out well. And so that is largely to blame for who we have in jail. And these harsh sentences, in effect, are leading to more and more people who are serving life sentences, and many of them are serving sentences where they may not have parole. Now, when you add in the race factor, you will see, as you probably would have imagined, that African Americans are overrepresented in our system compared to other groups. So this chart on the left shows you how whites, are underrepresented, but blacks are overrepresented. Nearly 40% of the prison population, even though they're only 13%. So I can't even describe to you the long-term impact this has had in terms of devastating African-American communities, with so many of our men taken out of the system, not getting degrees, not getting proper employment, not being marriageable, etc. This chart, it's unfortunately not updated, but seeing on the left, when you see a man having generally a 1 in 9 chance of imprisonment, but a black man, 1 in 3 chance. And I have 7 children. 5 of them are males, and just the fear of that they're likely to get, arrested, even though they are all, upstanding people. Many of them have advanced degrees, but they still may fall in the system. You see the numbers of women, there's just not that many women, period, who are locked up, but the Black woman statistic is still, looks very bad compared to the other groups. And then you can just look at this chart is fascinating, because when you look at the number of white men in prison per 100,000 versus Black men, these are just extraordinary differences. Okay, then there was a report in 2019 that said our rates, incarceration rates are slowing down, including for Blacks. However, we still have way more people in prison, than it was back in 1975 when we started the war on drugs. And if you look at these numbers, what year it will be, assuming certain things stay stagnant, which they may not be, when we would return to pre-1975 levels. And the bottom one, of course, for the women, that it would be 179 years from now. So one of the issues that people often don't bring up is that we need to support the ability for more people to have effective public defenders. And we just don't have enough. There are just not enough of my law students who want to be public defenders, or they want to be them, but there's not enough jobs. And if they get one, they're totally overworked. And so unfortunately, often their clients are not able to get effective assistance of counsel. There are, on the national level, some reforms, which started with the First Step Act in 2018. There's a number of things here that started, in other words, during the Trump administration. And I'll let you look at that, read that. And then when the Biden candidacy put out a number of important documents in terms of criminal justice. And so during the campaign, he had these items that he said he wanted to focus on. And then now that the Biden administration has taken over, they want to do some very important things in terms of sentencing, because we still have so many discrepancies in terms of sentencing. Right. He's did an executive order calling for the end, right, to these private prisons that haven't worked out. And he's also called for these items here, including the very important thing of so many military items ending up in the hands of local law enforcement. And with us getting out of Afghanistan, yet still spending $700 billion, I'm really worried that we'll have even more of military hardware that could end up in cities being used against, the population. Now, let's move to our state, Iowa. I've been proud to be an Iowan for 34 years. I'm definitely a Hawkeye through and through. You may or may not know the people I featured on the left, or all of them. Professor Keisho Scott has just retired from Grinnell, and she's been very involved for over 30 years in the state. On the bottom left, Wayne Ford was in our state legislature for many years. He's from Des Moines, and he came up with a racial impact law that exists, where every law that's passed has to look at the potential racial impact. And then, of course, we all do know our own mayor, of course, Mayor Teague. Our incarceration rates are horrific. Look at that. Look at where Iowa is, right, compared to these other countries. Even though we don't have a lot of people of color in our state, overall, the incarceration rates are terrible. We do have lots of people, many in probation, and a lot of pretrial policies have also driven up the growth. And this is showing you the equivalent of the federal slide, where you see people, you know, a lot of the people are in state prisons, not that many are in federal prison in Iowa. And if you go by race, as you would think, you're going to have horrific statistics in terms of incarceration rates. Just look at where the Black rate is compared to any other group, with Native Americans being the closest to the Black rate. And then the equivalent of that federal chart, you can see Blacks are vastly overrepresented in our system compared to whites. At one point, we were the worst in the country in terms of disproportion, not pure numbers, but disproportion. And here, this chart shows you in the dark blue that we're at the worst end there in terms of our incarceration rates. And even just taking one item like marijuana arrests, who would imagine, right? That a person in Iowa, a Black person, is 7.3 times more likely to be arrested than a white person. And at a time when marijuana is being legalized, we, you know, are medically used, and here yet we have all these people who are locked up. And you're seeing these numbers here, the disproportions. So reform, I don't like people to go away feeling it's hopeless. It's not hopeless at all. There are a number of things that are being considered, that are being talked about, that have been done. And of course, these are some of the things that need to be talked about. And so many of you all wearing your various hats in your professions may be involved in groups thinking about these things to reduce the numbers and to reduce the amount spent, and to focus more on rehabilitation. And there's lots of things states have done for that. And just decriminalizing marijuana, you know, some states, since they're having legal marijuana, have gotten rid of all of those people who were in prison for, you know, small marijuana offenses. And so this alone can play a big role. You know, of course, that Governor Reynolds signed a law about restoring voting rights. It was an executive order. If that either was a law or became part of our Constitution, that could, of course, be helpful, because so many people, including people of color, Black people particularly, have still don't have voting rights. One thing that I'm very positive of or in favor of is, you know, investing more in our inmates and giving them the kind of opportunities so that when they get out, they have some kind of skill, despite all of those problems I mentioned about becoming a second-class citizen. So as director of the UI Center for Human Rights, I have been pleased that over the years we have been involved over at Oakdale, and Chuck Swanson is on our board as well. I don't think he's in this picture, but this was a board meeting we held in the prison. So you got a combination there of prisoners and also board members. And we were involved in teaching within the prison in a program called UI Lab, UI Liberal Arts Behind Bars. And some of these prisoners have been getting degrees. They were getting AA degrees, and then also we wanted them to be involved in getting BA degrees. Of course, due to COVID, all of this has had to stop. We're hoping, you know, it can pick up again. The chair of our board, Professor Mary Cohen, she's head of the choir that performs through the prison and has been around for many years. That's been shut down too. She's hoping that that can get started up again soon. And of course, anything with prisons, you need to do a lot with the staff. in terms of diversifying and increasing the types of people and their training. So what do you think about these issues? Clearly, we don't have enough time, but I'm happy that we do have 10 minutes to get some of your thoughts on this. And there is my email there. Feel free to email me and we can have a phone call, a Zoom call, anything you want to talk about these important issues. And I want to end, don't be depressed. Don't be depressed. It seems overwhelming, but there are many issues that have seemed impossible, and great change has been made. As a mother of 7 and a grandmother of 15, I have to stay optimistic so that my children and grandchildren are optimistic. And of course, as a professor for these decades, I want to continue to give our future lawyers the hope that they need to go out and be part of a system that'll help provide more justice for all of our citizens. So I'll stop there and I'll take whatever questions we can fit into this time. And I don't know the protocol, but if it's allowed for me to stay on and after the time is over or people log off, I can stay on and take any other questions as well. So thank you very much, Barbara. And I guess
Thank you,
I'll turn it to
Adrien.
you.
It does look like we have a question from Gary Patient. Gary?
Yes, Adrien, thank you for your presentation. There's a lot of information there to try to soak up. One quick question, could you maybe articulate a few things that gives you reason for optimism?
Well, I believe that racial progress works in cycles. So, you can have 1896 wasn't a good year, right? In terms of Plessy v. Ferguson, but, years later, then you get the civil rights movement. So we can be in a trough, but then things always come out. They don't stay in just a bottom level of horror. So because of that, because I believe progress can be cyclical, I believe that we have to be optimistic. And we do, as our country is more and more diverse, there are many people who are interested and dedicated to working on these issues. So I'm hoping, despite the schisms, the severe schisms in our society at this moment, that this will help. And if people can be optimistic, that will help. I think. I'm sorry I don't have a better, more concrete.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
So Adrien, we do have a comment in the chat that thanks you for your presentation, and shares kind of the appreciation that I think all of us share for the good work that you're doing in your advocacy.
Yes. Right now, we can't do anything. The UI lab is shut down totally. The prison system, they had some unfortunate deaths involved with, prison staff, not at Oakdale, but elsewhere. And so there's nothing we can do now. If all those things get sorted out, COVID is over, and they get back to letting people from outside into the prisons to do anything, at that point, we'll start advertising about that. And so then we can look for help. The PowerPoint, I can leave with Barbara. And Chuck, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I've got a quick question, Adrien. First of all, it's such a pleasure to serve on your board for the University of Iowa Center for Human Rights. I always say it's an unsung hero. Just give just a few examples of some of the webinar topics. Kind of explain to people a little bit about what you all do, because it's so important and it's so meaningful.
Yes, thank you, Chuck. He's giving us a big plug. This week in the Press Citizen, there was a very nice editorial by Shams Ghonim, and you can read more about both Hansher and UICHR. But if you Google us, right, uichr.org, and you can get to our website, and you will see since the pandemic started last March, I believe we've done well over 30 webinars, and all of them are on the website. We have a YouTube link on our website, so you can see all of them. Some of them are about criminal justice. Some of them include international law. Some of them are about voting. We have we've just had one on environment and one on Native American rights. We have one coming up on June 2nd. It's not posted yet. It's going to be about cannabis law, right? That's going to be very interesting because one of my former students is a cannabis lawyer in California, and that involves human rights. We're also going to do one this summer on truth and reconciliation, focusing internationally and also on the TRC that we're trying to do in Iowa City. So it's a wide array of domestic and international topics. And this center was started in 1999 by Professor Burns Weston, who's passed away, and several other very prominent Iowa Citians. And so I recommend for all of you to go to that site, and you can just, when you're looking for webinar information, it's really rich. And some of the speakers are local, but some of them are national, nationally known speakers. And so thank you, Chuck. And Devin.
Yeah, thanks for coming today, and thanks for this presentation. My question is, if you had to pick like 2 or 3 things here in the next 4 or 5 years that you would want to focus on here in the state to improve the criminal system, what legislative, what systematic, what changes would you want to see? Top 2 or 3.
This is very difficult given what our legislature is passing now.
Right.
Yeah. So we're talking about, let's just presume, right?
Yes, let's dream.
Where people were open. We've got to do something in the voting issue. To finish off the voting issue would be helpful, and also a lot more in terms of rehabilitation for the people that get out, because majority of them recycle right back in. And that's not helpful. Under Governor Vilsack, I was put on a commission for 2 years with a wide array of Iowans from every sector. And we put out a white paper that talked about everything from prenatal care, health care, jobs. I mean, it's a whole array of things. So just working on one little string is not going to fix it. But certainly in terms of criminal justice, I think lowering the numbers of prisoners and rehabbing their skill set would be great. But then secondly, I would work on education, because the disconnects in terms of the level of education we're providing for certain people in our community isn't going to make them employable the way they need to be, so that they don't get into the school to prison pipeline, which is a very big, unfortunate phenomenon. So none of these things are easy. And unfortunately, the negative publicity Iowa is getting at this particular moment, as far as all of these laws that are coming out on a variety of topics, makes it difficult for us. But it does make national attention look at why is Iowa at the forefront of having a voter suppression law? What is that about, right? So anyway,
thank you.
Anybody else have something?
Well, I encourage everybody that Adrien's willing to stay and if you have any additional questions at the end of this. Also, Adrien, there's definitely a request for your PowerPoint. So if you get that to me,
send that to you.
I can make sure that that gets shared. But then in addition, also, can you, the website, the YouTube website where you talked about the various videos that you have put up, we'd love to kind of share those now, as well as in our notes that are sent to all of our members as well, because you have a lot of great content here. I think people would love to kind of dive into it a little bit deeper as well. So, and we just really want to thank you for taking the time and joining us today, sharing your perspective. Truly appreciate it. And in honor of your time with us today, we will actually make a contribution to Rotary International's Polio Plus program in your name. And that Polio Plus program, any donation to that is actually matched 2-to-1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And so that donation will provide 70 vaccinations to people around the world. And so it's our little way of saying thank you for taking the time and sharing your information with us today.
Well, I really appreciate that. The wonderful work that Rotary does and has done and will continue to do is just so fabulous. And I'm correcting the website. I just copied it from the right place. So that second website is the exact website you need to go to. But thank you for all of your work. And it's been my pleasure to be with you. And I look forward, I'm available to talk to different groups of every type. The Zoom world makes that even more possible, whether they be in Iowa City or Accra, Ghana, or Cape Town, South Africa, or Waterloo. So everyone have a great rest of the day, and I will stay on. Is that allowed a little bit?
Yes,
If anybody has further questions. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Adrien. And so I ask our members to please join me as we end our meeting with Rotary's 4-way test. Of the things that we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? So again, thank you all for joining us today. I hope you're able to enjoy the sunshine and the slightly warmer weather. Again, thanks to Adrien. And I just encourage you all, if you have any additional questions, feel free to stay a few minutes and join us for that a little bit further discussion if there are any other questions. Thank you all.